This is going to be worse than the comment section in the unpopular opinion videos on TRP. So before everyone absolutely loses their mind and starts fighting, I want to reference why this video was even conceptualized. I was seeing the Oscar run this year and the number of awards that Anora eventually won. I remember the hype associated with this film and then watching it, assuming that I will be absolutely blown away. However, the film, in my opinion, paled in comparison to the way it was hyped, especially when you see how Neon spent close to $18 million for its Oscar campaign. You realize that it was more to garner acclaim and awards, which in turn helped in generating curiosity as well, but I genuinely believe it is a movie that will not be remembered for the future years to come. This made me also conclude that the makers of movies, especially in this environment today, are desperate to create a cultural movement around their movies so that the audience does not feel left out. This seemed to be the case this year, especially with Weapons, and how exceptionally hyped the film was, and I went in with the same excitement, only to realize that a very popular Gujarati movie off our own home turf probably expanded on the same concept in a way more effective manner. Isn't it so funny on how we are so quick to judge our own movies and dismiss them as copies of Western films, but when popular Hollywood films take the trope of horror movies we have done for years, we somehow become mum about it? Anyway, these two movies specifically made me think about the Indian movies that released this year that were extremely overrated. By overrated, I mean, I think it's important to define this. Overrated means either of two things. Either the movie got great box office revenue but did not match the quality you assumed, or it was raved about within cinephile circles. It did not generate box office numbers, but you tuned in anyway, assuming that film fans have raved about it, so it may be nice, but it missed the mark completely. These are the two types of films we will be expanding on: box office hype and cinephile circle jerks. So from the onset only, I have to tell you that movies like War 2, Coolie, Thama, Ek Deewane Ki Deewaniyat, or even Thug Life are not a part of the list because they were dragged critically upon their release. So getting right into it, and I know the comment section is going to have a field day with the arguments that will eventually happen. Here is Tried&Refused Productions with top 10 most overrated Indian movies of 2025 so far. According to me, everyone is open to have their own thoughts. Alappuzha Gymkhana. This is a movie that I was really hyped for because I was absolutely obsessed with Khalid Rahman's movies, both Love and Talumala. And while I did enjoy Alappuzha Gymkhana, I wasn't really blown away by it like most of the audience that hyped it up so much that it became one of the highest grossing Malayalam movies of the year. Don't get me wrong, Naslan is funny as hell in this film, the motley crew of friends become an absolute riot as the training progresses, and the movie in a refreshing manner also subverts expectations of how most sports films end. However, to label it to be one of the best films of the year to come out of Kerala is a stretch, and I believe the film was a fun watch at best versus being touted as exceptional. The film from a plot point of view is extremely linear and basic. There isn't an interesting individual arc also, but just a tale of misfits wanting a purpose and to be of some bloody use. While you can say the same for Talumala as well, that had a paper-thin plot, however, I think it expanded to become one of the wildest theatre experiences I know recently, versus here where it just was some mild fun, nothing more and nothing less. Crazxy. This is a movie that is more of an intelligent example of effective marketing than there really being a discussion about the quality of the movie. While the details about Tumbad, the success after its re-release, and Soham Shah receiving all the accolades for the same is rather contentious, especially if you were to keep in mind on how the director of the original film, Rahi Anil Barve, has almost been ghosted in the process. Soham really piggybacked off of the success of Tumbad's re-release to market Crazxy, even getting the iconic characters to promote the movie made on a shoestring budget. The movie was praiseworthy in its attempt of creating a high-octane thriller, but fizzled especially in its climax, which was extremely underwhelming. The film, however, through its marketing, made a considerable collection at the box office, something that would have been negligible if Tumbad's re-release and its success had not happened. A film that for its timing benefited largely versus the content speaking for itself. They call him OG. If there was a Telugu project that I was hyped for this year, it was the Sujit directed film They Call Him OG starring Pavan Kalyan. This is a movie that had just everything going for it. A 6-score and music album by Taman, a visual aesthetic and appeal that was genuinely cool and aimed to present Pavan Kalyan like never before. I was excited about the face-off between him and Imran Hashmi, but the movie really disappointed me on how it shaped up holistically. To be be the highest grossing Telugu film of the year, grossing close to 260 to 300 crores in my opinion, should be associated with a film of a better quality. There is a Japanese origin story, there are elements that tie into 16th century Japan and the wild swing taken with their current predicament that will make anyone slightly well versed with Japanese history also facepalm. Then there is a subpar romantic plot, Pawan Kalyan speaking in half-broken Japanese in the climax battle, and a villain that barely made the stakes worrisome. A stylish film, yes, but not really of the quality that I imagined. Officer on Duty. This is a movie that I went in for with a clean slate and hoped and wished for it to be an engaging and stylistic investigative thriller. And while there are parts of this film that, when I self-reflect, were effective, especially if I were to look at Kunchako Bobon's performance or even the score composed by Jakes Bejoy, the more I think about it, the more I reflect on this movie's problematic elements regarding its portrayal of impressionable women being gaslit into indulging in drugs, or even the motley crew of villains who seemed extremely pretentious while playing the cool tatted up junkies. There are aspects of police brutality that are normalized and an odd stance of how PTSD manifests in behavior that just did not sit right with me. The male savior to trauma endured by women becomes the usual trope, and while I can appreciate the film for its technical prowess and tight edit, its success at the box office garnering over 50 crores with its miserly 13 crore budget is something that slightly boggles my mind. Raid 2. Ajay Devgan and his consistency with releases is definitely giving competition to Akshay Kumar, because in this year itself he is going to be starring in 4 films, and while many people remember that he has starred in disasters like Son of Sardar 2 and Azad, everyone seems to have forgotten that he also featured in a commercial hit like Raid 2 that garnered huge acclaim upon its release but never became a topic of discussion for its content. So was the case of the movie and its quality, because it was so basic, linear and predictable in its plot that it just became a regular movie outing in theaters for people versus what can be raved about for weeks to come. I mean, collecting over 200 crores is no joke, and while Ritesh Deshmukh does a respectable job in the film and there are moments of genuine excitement as the investigation develops, Ajay Devgan is mostly found sleepwalking through the film. Vani Kapoor and her track is nothing but a mere distraction, and the sequel just lacked the zing of the memorable first film. Mirai. There is a common sentiment among theatre-going audiences that they are tired of movies and filmmakers depending on religious imagery to paper over their own incompetence as storytellers. How basic hero-villain narratives are presented with imagery of revered gods, almost guilting the audience into liking movies, because if they don't, majority of the people will be labelled as anti that film or anti that religion. Mirai became an extension of what Teja Sajja did in Hanuman, but I think it lacked the conviction to become the rage among audiences that they were envisioning. For the budget in which the movie was made, the technical prowess with CGI and its marriage with practical locations was commendable, but the film lacked coherence with its lore, boasted of some silly comedic gags, and it eventually felt like a half-baked storyline of good versus evil that was neither an exceptional superhero movie nor a film meant for devotional purposes. The movie grossed a respectable 150 crores but lacked the hype associated with the film prior to its release. Chhaava. This is the biggest hit from Bollywood in 2025, and I think Maharashtra really lapped it up and celebrated this film for consecutive weeks when it was in theatres. The movie presented us the rise of Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj during the time Aurangzeb was the king of the Mughal Empire. While the scale of the film was immaculate, and Akshay Khanna, in my opinion, put forth a chilling performance as the ghastly, unruly Mughal invader, I thought the movie's quality did not match the blockbuster that it eventually became. The film was marred with a terrible score composed by A.R. Rahman that seemed to belong to another world altogether. While Vicky Kaushal's physical dedication to the role was commendable, he lacked a measured approach to the historical figure, mostly found shouting at the top of his lungs. Rashmika's casting seemed illogical, and while I eventually celebrated the film for the sheer resources that went into making the historical epic, Vicky and Vineet's ultimate investment in the roles was commendable, I thought it was a good film at best, not exceptional. Something that one would associate with a film that grossed over 800 crores worldwide. A film making that kind of money is usually associated with gems, but Chhaava, despite its good qualities, was far from being labelled as a gem in my opinion. Good, Bad, Ugly. This is a movie that really became the epitome of brain rot that I never envisioned would be celebrated the way it was, especially by the Tamil audience. The movie starring Ajit and which is directed by Adik Ravichandran grossed over 200 crores in box office revenue. The film has such an odd reel structure that you realize it's only meant for people with a short attention span. Action sequences are like fast-forwarded montages, there are physics-defying stunts galore, foreign actors' performances are atrocious, the screenplay is an absolute mess, and you conclude that the movie is only meant for fan service with several homages to Ajit's own filmography. The movie, if not seen in the environment of shouting fans, is painful to sit through. Hence, it is not even being spoken about ever since it dropped on Netflix. Thalaivan Thalaivii. This is a movie that I just can't get my head around of understanding how it eventually grossed over 100 crores at the box office. This movie starring Vijay Sethupathi and Nithya Menon is something that the Tamil film fans had warned me about before I watched it online, and my god, was it deafening to sit through. The film comprises of family members who get into multiple arguments while reflecting on what went down ever since the marriage of the two leads in the movie. And this film is comprised of 2 hours of incessant shouting at each other. The screenplay is disjointed, the over-emotional arcs of the second half can give melodramas in TV serials a run for their money, and the themes that are perpetuated in the film are extremely regressive and patriarchal, normalized in the process for a happily ever after. If this is the case of family movies that are offered in theatres and are showered with so much love, then I think it's really concerning because they're not going to stop anytime soon. Saiyaara. I know that the audience becomes really passionate about this movie, either absolutely despising it or loving it so much that it has developed stan accounts for the leading actors. However, in defense of the movie, I think it's an enjoyable and lovely Bollywood film that has talented young actors with beautiful music and a storyline that has all the generic tropes one associates with a Mohit Suri film. And just for that, one really can't complain. However, the hype associated with this movie to be a romance for the ages is grossly exaggerated. A movie that was lapped up by the audience for its beautiful music and refreshingly young faces in front of camera, Saiyaara almost became a cultural movement that everyone became curious about and ended up watching. I had friends who have no interest in watching Bollywood movies. They ended up watching this in theatres because they were curious about what the hype was all about, only to come out of the theatre and say, that was it? I must say though that the movie presented us a marketing masterstroke with its reels in theatres of over-emotional teenagers, its generational war that it created among older lots referencing Ashiki 2 as their prime and even older ones referencing Tere Naam as the peak of Majnu cinema. And it just became this pop culture phenomena that I don't think even the makers envisioned. I have to again reference and conclude that I really did enjoy this movie, but is its quality reflective of its 500 crore box office revenue? I don't really think so. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below of which film according to you in 2025 is the most overrated film of the calendar year. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram, the handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.